on the 8 best practices to creating your marketplace and the different ways to go ahead and maximize creating a peer-to-peer marketplace. And so our summary today that we're going to go over is how it's never too early to start a social media strategy. And so we want to make sure that we address those reasons for getting started. And so it's never too early to start a social media strategy, how brands can leverage existing communities, also ways peer-to-peer startups can acquire new users, how to build customer loyalty and awareness through community, and also PR strategies to be your own media. So first, let's get started with our first slide on it's never too early to start a social media strategy. One of the things that is really, really important from starting a marketplace is understanding that social media users are also marketplace users. A recent Vision Critical and Crowd Companies report displayed that 73% of neo-sharers are social media users as well. And what that means, a neo-sharer is someone who uses Airbnb or Uber or some of the most popular marketplaces. So what's happening here is that they are usually the same type of people. And so why it's important is that that might be one of the most effective places to target them and start building conversations. But first and foremost, as you start your social media strategy, you really need to identify your message and who your target audience is. From the get-go, you understand who you want to be, what your voice will be, and understanding that will help you target the right social media channels. It's important to know that not every social media channel would be appropriate for your marketplace. For example, you might look at Instagram as being beneficial for a certain marketplace who is doing peer-to-peer purse exchanges or peer-to-peer rent a dress. You might use that visual piece of Instagram being very beneficial, whereas in some other cases it may not be the approach to go. Also, if you're considering looking at the demographics, it's very beneficial for you in noticing that the users on various social media channels have changed over time. For a while there, Facebook users were young, college age, young adults who were really dominating that channel. As we've seen the changes in the last couple of years, we can tell that the average Facebook user is actually over 45, and they're growing rapidly on Facebook. And so if you're going to be involved in any kind of social media marketing, doing ads, make sure you're going to the right channel. You're going to the channel where the right user is hanging out and engaging in content. The reason why we say that it's never too early to start a social media strategy is because understanding who your audience is and where they reside, what type of content they read, where they are inspired, where they shop, is really important from the start of your marketplace, and that way you can speak right to them and start building a community from the beginning. Also, don't exclude any offline efforts and grassroots marketing. And what we mean by that is social media is as strong as the offline efforts that are influencing it. For example, if you're going to an event and you're going to a meetup that is centered on the industry of your marketplace, it's important to be engaged in social media, posting photos, getting involved, and talking to real-life people who will then talk about you on social media. And so don't exclude any offline efforts and look at it as an integrated part of your marketing approach, and know that from the very start of creating your marketplace, you want to build a community. A community is important because basically the success of your marketplace thrives on that. So a marketplace is very dependent on that community relationships and how trustworthy the community is and how they trust you as a marketplace owner. So as on our next slide, I showcased here an image from the Vision Critical Crowd Companies report that shows how people find sharing services. And I wanted to highlight this because 47% of people, it's through word of mouth. Someone told them about it. And then you'll see 13% is social network. And the thing that I noticed about this image is that a lot of the times we tell people through social media. We tell people through a tweet or a Facebook post. I just tried this new sharing economy company or a new peer-to-peer economy company, whatever you'd like to call it, it's a peer-to-peer experience that you're sharing with your peers on a very social channel. I'll give you an example. When I was traveling to Nashville, I arrived to the airport and decided to take a cab to the location I was going to. I took the cab. It cost around $30. On my way back to the airport at the end of the weekend, I decided to take a Lyft. I noticed a difference very quickly in the cost of the ride, the Lyft being about $10 or so cheaper than the actual cab ride. Same distance, going from the same hotel, just the opposite direction. What that led me to do is to go on Twitter, tweet about it. It made me tell my friends, word of mouth, hey, you guys should really start using Lyft. I saved so much money. They solved a pain point of mine, and it inspired me to share and tell somebody about it because it had affected me. And so I feel that one of the things about word of mouth is that word of mouth directly is influencing social media, and that's where you'll see the offline efforts translate into online. So another part of the social media growth marketplace experience is to understand that community can be seen as a very, very beneficial tool for you in various ways. And I'm going to talk about brands here and not say just brands like Nike, but a brand can be somebody who's an existing company, maybe a tractor company, or any kind of brand can be interpreted in this side here. So look at this. If you already have a community, an email list, if you're looking at a community that's already engaged with you, if you have a direct marketing list, if you have an audience, a customer base, you can leverage this customer base and these people who are already your fans and who are already your advocates. And it's important to learn that starting a community from scratch is very challenging, but it's possible. But then also brands can leverage this community through social media. And one of the things that's interesting to point out is that Social Media Week took place, I believe it was last week or a week or two ago, in 4 or 5 different cities all over the world. And they host a variety of events throughout the year, but I think there's 2 big ones. Last week they described that private social media networks are actually the next step to social media. They talk about how WhatsApp and Snapchat and WeChat are getting more and more popular, more and more funded by big companies because people like to feel that they're an exclusive network in an environment where it is it's safe of like-minded individuals. And so that being said, community being built on social media itself is one place, but building a community within your marketplace is just as important, or even more so, as you start to see the evolution of social media. If you're working with a brand or you're already a company that's existed for a while, tap into that network and invite them to an exclusive community where they can feel that they can engage, resell, trade, or engage in services with each other. And you'll see that you can leverage that through social media by starting there, because if you already have an audience of 100,000, or if you have an audience of a 10,000 email list, you already have a customer base or a group of people who are on your team, and it's a great way to get started. Brands, whether you're Nike or a tractor company, need to look at what your customer is already doing with your product and start to engage with them on that level. And so on social media, there's various ways for you to do that and start to look at, okay, if you're a Nike, for example, and your customer is reselling their shoes because there are lots of Nike, collectors. People love to collect certain Nike shoes and they resell them on eBay. Maybe this is an action that your customer is engaging in that you can start to own by creating a marketplace where people can engage and you can start gathering data and understanding this user. The reason why I bring this up is because social media and these type of marketplace communities are very directly related, because you're basically engaging with a customer on a deeper level, and it's important to understand how they're so deeply related. Something that I want to mention from earlier from the previous slide on why it's never too early to start a social media strategy is that social media basically amplifies your brand. And like I mentioned, how community is so important, keep note that it is a place where you want to communicate and understand and listen to them, but also where there is potential, sales that can come from that and people who can advocate for you. And just a side note, I know that some people are concerned about tools to help them because maybe not all of you have the social media bandwidth. You don't have a teammate or a colleague who can run your social media accounts for you, and it may feel like a lot of work. Well, one of the ways to deal with that are through companies like ZootRock, where you can automate your content based on keywords. You can look at Hootsuite or TweetDeck. Some of these are free services where you can monitor conversations or schedule your tweets or your Facebook posts. Buffer and Hootsuite both have a tool where you can create a plugin on your Chrome or your browser and go ahead and read an article and automatically click to share it on your social media account, and you can schedule it for later that day or that moment, or an auto schedule. And those type of tools are meant to make your life easier if you're running social media and don't have the resources to be able to monitor and track it all the time. If you are running your company's social media account, if you have your own marketplace and you feel that this is a struggle and a stress, make sure you set aside time every day to go ahead and adjust this. Go online, check the conversation, and don't just look at who's talking to you, but I'm going to encourage you to target conversations. And I say this because it's very important to acquire new users this way. So my next slide on ways to peer-to-peer startups can acquire new users, I'm suggesting to join the conversation based on the pain point. So if you are on Twitter, for example, and I'm going to give Twitter as an example because we actually get about 28% of our revenue for Near Me through Twitter. And so on Twitter, you can actually look up hashtags, but you can also look up keywords if you're using a free tool like Hootsuite. And what's important is to look beyond your company. So if you are a company for RV rentals, for example, you're not just going to look up who's talking about RVs. You want to look up travel. You want to look up family travel. Maybe you're going to look up a hashtag road trip. You want to look beyond the actual type of industry you're in and where people go and what they're interested in. An example I'll give is North Face is actually working on building a community for their customers, and they decided to look beyond social media and the customers existing on Facebook and Twitter and say, what are our customers doing? Well, we know based on our research that they buy clothing for hiking or skiing. So if they like to hike and ski, let's go ahead and meet them where they gather information. They gather information on the best places to hike. They like to find out information on the best ski equipment. They like to go to the best ski resorts, whatever it might be, and looking into those conversations and join them. That way, if you see a tweet through, you're tracking on Hootsuite that somebody is complaining about, wow, I really wish that, my cat wasn't climbing all over my computer while I'm working from home, and you are desks near me, you can tell them, hey, why don't you rent a desk instead, all through Twitter, and you can start introducing yourself to people. It's sort of like being at a party and overhearing a conversation and politely joining in and saying, hey, I actually have a great solution for you. Addressing their pain point is huge. Also, creating content that people need and being a resource. Startups that are starting in the peer-to-peer space are dealing with a lot of competition and a lot of noise on social media unless you are solving a problem. And if you're creating content like these are the 10 ways to make more money off of your used clothes, or if you're creating content or webinars where people feel that it's valuable, they will share it. The term shareworthiness comes up here, where social media has evolved from your number of likes being determining your value on social media to your shareworthiness. How much are things being shared on Facebook? How many people are actually being exposed to what you posted? And so I would recommend thinking of your content and how shareworthy is this. The other part of this is empowering your first users and building special communities for them. So your first users are going to be your advocates. They're the ones who you need to really give a lot of attention to and nurture and listen to their concerns. Are they having dashboard issues? Are they feeling like what you have is very valuable, but they want to share it with their community but don't know how? Empower them. Your first users are the people who are going to be your loudest voice. And think about this. If you're creating a marketplace for camping equipment and you have 10 users, those 10 users who are listing their camping gear want traffic just as much as you do because they want to make money off of their camping gear. So you just got 10 more marketers for you. Now, if you don't ever empower them, you're wasting an opportunity where you could be building business for you as a marketplace owner, but also for these users who are on your site. So in order to do that, start building communities for them. Maybe after 10 users, you start to create a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group where you're only talking to them and you're empowering them with the right resources they need, or you're listening to their concerns. Lyft is a great example. They create hangouts where you can meet up as a Lyft driver and chat with each other and find out what are you dealing with, what struggles do you have, how can you make your life easier, whatever it might be. And Lyft supports that and creates these communities. And so those active Lyft drivers go out there and pass it on to other people who then become either Lyft users or Lyft drivers. And so you want to really, really nurture that. And so in Destiny or Me, for example, we saw over 50% of our referrals come from Facebook. And so something that I want to highlight here is that Facebook ads are very beneficial if you know how to use them. Targeting, target the actual users of other sharing sites, target a certain age group. You can do this all on Facebook for a pretty low cost compared to some other advertising platforms. Take a look at that as an option for you, especially as you're growing, and realize that Facebook in and of itself and the newsfeed may not be as effective for some of your posts, but sorry about that, but your actual ads would go very far on that platform, and that's kind of where the direction that Facebook is heading towards. And so, and I mentioned Near Me, a lot of its revenue coming from Twitter, so don't ignore a platform based on what you hear about it, test it. If you are starting out a new marketplace and everyone tells you stay away from Twitter or stay away from this other channel, go in, try it out, try content on there, and look at the data. Try to see if there is any type of activity. Are people responding? Are you getting the type of people that you want to engage with you? I am going to highlight here that on Twitter, you're going to see a place to amplify your message. You're going to see conversations between brands, journalists, bloggers, influencers. I look at Twitter as a place where you put out content because you want the people who can influence others to pick it up and run with it. That could look like engaging with a journalist, a writer from LA Times who is active on Twitter, or looking at somebody who is a brand and engaging there, and so, or the actual user of a marketplace. But make sure you're not discrediting certain channels until you test it, and also evaluate what user is on that channel before you completely push it aside. So my next topic that I want to go over is building customer loyalty and awareness through community. So we talked about earlier how the sharers are social media users. But you also notice in this image here that 91% of sharers would recommend the last sharing service they use to a friend or a colleague. This, again, is from the Vision Critical Crowd Companies Sharing is a New Buying report. And this is very encouraging because it lets you know that people are talking, and people talk through social. So keep that in mind as you build your community. Here I'm going to talk about engaging. Now, you're building customer loyalty. In this day and age is all about engagement, and it's all about listening to what your customer is going through. If any of you have ever experienced a horrible customer service experience, you'll notice that you want to complain to somebody. Let's be honest. You want to tell somebody, I can't believe JetBlue treated me this way, whatever it might be. And a lot of the times, these companies are responsible for listening to you, whether you email them a complaint or you tweeting about it, whatever it is. But not saying we need to go around complaining about different companies, but what you'll notice is that if you do let a company know what's going on with you and they solve your problem, you are usually more loyal to that company in the future. And that's because they heard you, and people love to be heard. So engaging with your customers is key on social media. And that could be through surveys, that can be through those smaller communities that we mentioned earlier, and different ways like that. Empowering. Empowering can be through incentives. Lyft has a special promo code for a new Lyft driver, and if I am using Lyft and I meet a friend who doesn't use it, I feel, hey, I can give you a promo code, now you get a free ride. And for me, that's a great feeling to know that I can give that to a friend. Or maybe it's a different type of incentive of a contest or an event. Think about how you are looking at your customers, and in this sense, you're whoever's listing on your marketplace or the people using your marketplace, and look at how you can empower them to want to share who you are and build more awareness for your company. So another part of this is that building awareness is through content, okay? Again, we talked about solving a pain point. This also is in relation to being the solution to a problem. So if you're providing content, you're building awareness that people will share with others who they know have a similar problem. Another piece of this is that understanding that relationships are really, really crucial at this point. If you want to build loyalty or awareness or grow your users, you need to involve yourself with your users and get to know them. And that could mean offline events that we mentioned earlier, meetups, but making sure you're really getting involved in the very beginning is very important. Even some of the largest peer-to-peer companies, you look at Airbnb, they're very committed to wanting to connect with their users. And in the very beginning, it's easier when you're smaller. Now, once you get to a certain size, you will deal with a larger amount of complaints, worries, whatever it might be, and you'll start to learn how to scale it. But throughout the entire process, all of these companies, large or small, understand that community is the source to their success. If Airbnb lost its community tomorrow, they would be done. There's nobody using the site. And so that community is being encouraged and it's being supported through their social channels and their communication to them and what they're providing them. So the next topic I want to talk about is be your own media. Now, my background is in PR and working with various nonprofits, both international and U.S., and how to build their social and their PR outreach. And so I'm going to talk about this very quickly. And basically what's important here is that before you can get media coverage, you need to be your own media. And I say that because it's 2014 and everybody has the resources to do that. If you host an event or you're doing something that you want people to know about, take photos, videos of it, create a blog post on it, tell your story. In this day and age, if a reporter goes online and looks for you, and there's nothing online talking about you, even if it's not your own blog, there's no images, there's no social media presence, you actually don't look as legit as you would hope. So give it a lot more credit that you need to have a presence, an online presence, and think of social media as a part of that. Google Plus, help get content on there on a Google search by posting on Google Plus, blog posts on various topics in relation to your company, photos, tell your story and tell your, the stories of your users. And there's various ways you can do that with microblogs and things like that. And YourMe provides that for their users, and that people can tell their own story within a marketplace. And so if your marketplace right now isn't set up for that, look into it, because both the marketplace story and the user stories is really what's going to motivate new users and even the media to be interested in you. Also, write content and submit it to blogs and magazines. Look into, if no one's covering you and talking about you, then talk about yourself. And you know what? It's very beneficial when you don't even talk about yourself while you're talking about yourself. The way I describe that is you can talk about the industry, you can talk about the topics that you handle, that you address, without making it a super promo piece. And those are how thought leaders are born. They talk about topics, they talk about what's happening in the industry, and they address that. And so at the bottom of the byline, which is a written piece from a high-level executive at your company, at the end of the byline, at the bottom it says, so-and-so CEO of this company, there's your plugin. And people will see that. If they look at you as providing quality content, they will see who wrote that, and they will be interested in you there. So don't feel like you always need to create promotional writing as you submit them to blogs and magazines. Another part of this is go to events and, again, meet your customers, and go to events that are local media events in your community, and just understand that you, as a marketplace owner or a team member on that, you are a walking advocate. You are the one holding so much information, and people don't know what you know. And sometimes you're so wrapped up in what you do that you don't realize that you're holding some really interesting information that even a reporter would find interesting. So go out there and start meeting, go to media events, think of yourself as your team megaphone. You are communicating and introducing yourself and telling people what you do to build awareness and get some coverage there. And so also don't be discouraged. Media coverage grows. Start with lower tier blogs, business blogs. Look beyond your industry. Maybe you're in the fashion industry and you can look at fashion blogs, then look at business, look at entrepreneur blogs, look at, are you a female business owner? Are you a parent that's a business owner? Look deeper into your resources because blogs like that are always looking for content. And so diving into those is really important. And so set aside time or a person to do this. And so an example for us would be one of our partners on Near Me. His name is Scott Krupa, and he's the founder of RV with Me. And this guy, he went out there and built relationships with people that he knew didn't know about RV with Me. And so he started to do some of his own media outreach and was recently covered in the Edmonton Business Journal as well as a local television highlight as well. And what happened there is that he doesn't have a PR team. He's a business owner. He created a marketplace for people to find RV spaces through RV with Me that are unique and provide a newer experiences versus the 125 RV parking site. It's unique, it's fun, you can find a ranch you can park at and enjoy camping on a whole nother level. And so he went out of his way and connected with his network and built relationships within the community and told them about what he did and got to the point where people wanted to cover his marketplace. And it doesn't take a huge PR marketing budget to do that. It's building relationships, going out to events, tapping into your network. Be your own media. And then sooner or later, you'll have more and more of larger tier media reaching out to you, wanting to know more about you. Because if you have some good traction online, they're going to notice that when someone tells them, hey, have you heard of RV with Me? And they go online and all of a sudden they see some other pieces on them, they see some blog posts, they see actual content, they realize, oh, this must be a legit company. There's content out there on them. More of an incentive to cover them, more of an incentive to build more media coverage, thus creating more awareness for the brand. And also, if you don't have any buzz out there about you, create the buzz. Let people know what's interesting and test different messages. Maybe one minute you're focusing on why you're the greatest solution for people who are renting computers, but then you realize that not everyone's interested in that angle, and maybe it's the fact that you are reusing material and you're helping save the planet that way. Try that approach. Remember that you can adjust those in your own blogs, or you can adjust those in your pitching, and as you tell your story, and find what works for you and identifies what you guys are all about. Some things that I want to say that's not on the slide that kind of addresses the overall presentation is that it's important to kind of understand that social media is as good as you use it. You can find all the automated tools and you could schedule things, but it's all about relationships and engaging. And it's making sure that you are amplifying who you are and remembering to do the old 70-30 rule, where it's 70% other people, 30% about you. What that means is nobody wants to hear self-promotion 24/7. I will personally unfollow you if that's all you offer. Most people will unfollow you. The number one reason people unfollow anybody or any company on Facebook or Twitter is because they either talk too much about themselves or they post too much and too often where it just clutters their feed. Think about that as you balance out your content. Think about, okay, outside of what you do, how can you be a resource? Maybe if you are a company who works with connecting people to used computers, maybe you realize that your audience would also be interested in other things that are related to that aren't about the computer themselves. Post content about that. Think about your audience again, like I mentioned, who you're targeting, who they are, and addressing things that would be of interest to them. And that way you'll have a well-rounded presence on social media that's not just you using it to post about why you're awesome and why people should sign up with you, because that approach unfortunately won't be as effective. You'll end up being ignored, and people are programmed to see feeds and posts that way and be discouraged because it just looks like another promo piece and they will not engage with you. I do want to check in and see if there's any questions so we can address those with the time that we do have. I'd love to answer any questions, and let's see, let's get this going. All right. Also, I want to hear too that if you don't have any questions, or you do have specific questions, feel free to ask them. I also want to know about what is the number one advice that you would give about social media? So if you have any tips and advice that you want to give, if you have your own marketplace, feel free to go ahead and give those out too. All right, let's see what we got here. All right. Oh, look at all these messages that did not appear earlier. Thanks, guys. All right. All right, let's see. Any particular variations for a nonprofit marketplace? Are you talking about specifically how to approach it differently if it's a nonprofit? Because I would definitely say yes. If it's a nonprofit marketplace, you definitely want to look at how you approach your messaging and realize that there are some commonalities here, but there's also some differences, and that nonprofit conversations usually exist in a different way, but at the end of the day, you're looking for a call to action. You're looking for somebody to engage with you. So if you're looking at a nonprofit marketplace, one thing that I would say is that tap into, unlike any marketplace, tap into the emotions. With nonprofit marketplaces, there's already an audience who is involved with being passionate about cancer, for example, or children's issues or family issues. There are communities with all of those. And so you definitely want to go into those communities and start to engage there. So in a lot of ways, it kind of crosses back and forth. You can be nonprofit or for-profit, and they still have similar things here. But remember with nonprofit marketplaces is that, and with any marketplace actually, is it's about the emotion, tapping into that and realizing that you're inspiring somebody to actually do something. And that there's an urgency that's different with nonprofits usually. I mean, you can create an urgency however you want to with a different type of marketplace, but with nonprofits, that's in your favor, because if you're trying to fundraise by a certain deadline, or you are looking to do a nonprofit marketplace that actually is changing people's lives or affecting people, you can create this strategy around how to assist and make certain things happen. And the other part of that is telling the end product. So if you are creating a nonprofit marketplace and somebody could sign up to buy a certain item and it goes to charity, for example, Regalo.com, for example, is doing, you can provide a service, and instead of someone paying you, they get to pay the charity of your choice that you've decided on. And if Regalo.com is doing a social media strategy, one thing I would say is show them the results. Did donations go to that charity afterwards? Do you have any images or photos? Tell the story. Stories are huge with nonprofit marketplaces. People want to know what happened and how it went. Let's see what else. Can you restate those tools? Yes. So Zootrock, Z-O-O-T-R-O-C-K, is a great automated Twitter tool. You can go in there and basically choose keywords, topics, hashtags that you want Zootrock to find and automatically tweet for you. And then you can also schedule tweets that go maybe 3 times a day or 3 times a week, however you'd like, on certain topics. So for example, if you know there's a certain marketing message or an event message that you want it to tweet twice a day for the next 3 weeks, you can set that up. If you want anything on a certain industry to be tweeted from you, you can set that up. Now you also have to monitor it just like any tool, because it's important to not let computers make your decisions for you. You want to go in there and check, because every once in a while you never know if that's exactly what you want that it pulled up, and you just want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it. Hootsuite's the other one, Hootsuite, Hootsuite, and so you can use the free version. It's really helpful. You basically can schedule tweets. You can search different basically different keywords or words or even URLs. For example, on Hootsuite, you can type in your URL for your marketplace and see if anybody's ever tweeted using it. My favorite secret by far, because some people tweet about you and they don't tag you. They'll say, oh, I love this company, they're so awesome, and they throw in the URL, and they think, wow, I did my part, shared it with people. you as the marketplace owner will have no idea unless you're searching for your keywords or the name of your company, your URL, and all of those other important pieces. And so use those search tools on Hootsuite, which are free, to find out who's talking about you and retweet them, favorite, engage with them. Thanks so much for tweeting about us, whatever it might be. You'll notice a lot of the times they'll respond like, wow, cool, thanks for responding. And they didn't even know you existed on Twitter, and now you do, and you just created a new friend. The other tool is TweetDeck. Some people like TweetDeck over Hootsuite. And then SumAll is great for some analytics, SUMALL. Also Sprout Social. Sprout Social gives you a 30-day trial, but it does cost to use it. Also Buffer. And so if there's any other ones, feel free to tweet using hashtag NearMeTalks if you know some other tools that are out there. Let's see. For nonprofit, give tips about how people can donate. You can leave some money. They can also buy life insurance and make the nonprofit their beneficiary. Yeah, I mean, show people exactly the process. That's a great example. Something in your social media strategy to do is to make sure that you are helping people understand as simple as possible. Topsy is another company that you can use for social media as well. And we'll also send out the PowerPoint, so if you did request that, that will be available. Also, making sure that you monitor your social presence in all channels. For example, Yelp. Yelp is a great place where people go and review companies. Make sure that you're monitoring that. Make sure you're monitoring any Quora conversations that are related to your marketplace. Make sure you're putting out Google alerts with search terms that are not just your brand, but your industry, and maybe ways to pronounce your brand or ways that people might accidentally type in your brand, and start getting those emails on a regular basis. I get them throughout the afternoon, throughout the day, and I check them. I check the articles being written on topics of peer-to-peer, sharing economy, near me, near-me.com, the variations. However, the one thing that's super helpful is to see if anyone's talking about you outside of the social space. And Yelp is very important because reviews are very, very important. And people will go on there, and if they have anything bad to say, you want to make sure you're answering them, you're talking to them, you want to create a presence there. And so we'll also include, by the way, we'll include the list of tools in the, when we send out the deck as well, so that you have that. Let's see. Postbeyond.com is great for publishing on many social networks in advance, get reporting, and do searches. I actually heard about Postbeyond.com this week, so thank you for recommending that. So check that out, postbeyond.com. Also, something else that I think is really important with social media is to remember that it is a part of an integrated marketing approach. So in the beginning, if you don't have many resources, social media is a great way to get out there to build a presence for free. And that's the beauty about it. But as you grow, you need to start looking at how social media affects the overall campaign. So you don't want to just do social. You want to look at your email marketing. You want to look at your PR. You want to look at your advertising dollars and look at how they all affect each other. Because if you just look at social and what's coming from there, you're going to be misled. You want to see how it affects everything and how they're all connected. Is there any more questions from anyone about any of the things we went over? All right. Something else I encourage for those of you who aren't the social media person, or maybe you're a business owner and this feels like a whole lot of confusion for you, I would go ahead and recommend that you look into either an intern or a person that you can hire for a few hours. Companies like CloudPeeps will do you can hire somebody to do like a social media campaign for you, or looking at assigning on either Zirtual or various companies like that, TaskRabbit, and start to make it an effort to get somebody doing it. And there are so many resources out there to give direction on how to do it. Just making sure you actually have somebody assigned to it is huge. And the reason why I say that is that to do it successfully, you need somebody who's going to be in charge of it and engaging with people and creating content. And it goes beyond just, tweeting and posting on Facebook, but it goes into actually building content and building a community. And look at that is the value piece there on getting somebody in charge of this for you. Anywho, thank you all for your patience on getting started. I know that must have been very frustrating, technical difficulties here on my end, so I'm so happy that you guys joined us. And stay connected to hear about our next webinar. We're going to be talking about some important business tools for building your marketplace in our next coming webinars. And also check out our blog, near-me.com/blog, and see some content there. And if there's ever a piece of content that you're looking to find out, maybe about how to do something with social, how to do something with marketplaces, feel free to email us, tweet at us, and we'd love to create webinars from there or blog posts on addressing that. We'll be posting a blog soon about how to build your supply, and so keep an eye out for these things. We'd love to hear from you. And just overall, I just encourage you to check out some of these tools to use, and always look at the analytics from these things. Look at your Facebook Insights, Hootsuite, Google Analytics, and see what works and what doesn't work. And above all, make sure that you're actually talking to somebody. Do not just be a self-promoting robot on social media. Remember that there's somebody reading it and somebody who wants to engage with you. And so be human and make sure you build those relationships. Thanks so much, everybody, and I hope you guys have, if you have any other questions, go ahead and send them through. If not, we'll go ahead and follow up via email. Thanks, everyone.